If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification, and give us the thumbs up.
In this video, we are going to discover the process more object, how it works, and its functionality. You will see here under programming, we have one program in here, and with a few sections. Each section is dedicated to a specific object. So for the ones that we're interested in for this video, is this for right here. So MOT shutdowns, permissives control, and runtime. So if we open up the control, that's the block we are basically demonstrating in this video. As you can see here, the block is already linked and it's ready to go. And we will do that in a second. Download it to the PLC and HMI. But before that, just want to mention a couple of things. So we have here the parameter input alarm, which is linked to the interlock block. So basically this is coming from, if we see here, from this block here. So this output right here, basically it's coming to the control for the shutdowns. And then in the same way for the permissives, as you will see here, this permissive block is coming to here. And then for the speed feedback, I don't have a real speed feedback, but if you do, for example, maybe you have an encoder or a diff or similar signal, then you can put that in there. In my case, I just basically fed this output back in here, loop it back. And also we have an input for the running stance feedback. So if you have a physical signal, you can link it to this input in here. The other thing also we have is the runtime. So for the runtime block, we are linking basically the status of starting and running that's coming from the control block, from this one here, to this runtime block. That way we can know, for how long this piece of equipment has been running for, and there's some other information, like for example the maximum that has been running for a particular start, the number of starts, and so forth. Now, I just put all these pieces here together just to show you the full scope of what you can do with this block. But for example, if you don't have permissives, then you just leave this, empty. Don't link anything. Same thing for the shutdown, and the same thing if you don't want to use this runtime, then you just don't create this block and you don't link it to this. So it's really up to the developer and the designer and the particular equipment to what you want to add with this block. So similar to the PLC, as we see here for the HMI, you're going to find a few screens. Some of them are templates for the particular object. If we go to the main window here, you can see we have a few objects. The one we're interested in for the purpose of this video is this pump in here. And as we can see, it's all linked and it's all good to go. So basically we're going to load this to the PLC and then interact with it from the HMI so we can discover the functionality. And then later on, after that, we will basically see how we can add a second pump, and then we will go throughout the process to discover all the other parameters in the PLC as well. So let's go ahead and download this, use it. So if I click on the object, I have the faceplates, and it's basically 4 tabs. So one for control, one for shutdowns, permissives, and then this one for the setup. So as we can see here, this is already has been set with the description of the piece of equipment we're dealing with, the tag, whether it's controlled by a VFD or just a closed line. So in this example, it's controlled by just a closed line. but we're going to see just in a little bit here when we add a new pump. I will use the VFD option and then see what that means or what that does. Also, we have the ability to add a confirmation. So when you hit start or stop, it gives the operator, a second chance to rethink about starting or stopping that piece of equipment. As well as in here the feedback. So in this case, we have a real feedback, which is this input right here. And also we're telling here that we have the shutdown or interlock object and permissive object and runtime object, which what we have seen earlier in this video, that this block has only two associated with it. So we tell the HMI that if we don't have it, we can simply, for example, let's say we don't have any permissives, we can uncheck that. What that will do is basically we'll remove this from the HMI, so there's nothing. So for us, we do have that. So now it shows that something associated exists. And also we have here the alarms for the fail to start and fail to stop alarms. So if we give a signal and it didn't start in this, let's say 5 seconds, then we're going to get an alarm that says fail to start. The same way for fail to stop. So let's start this. Like we said, here's the confirmation. Say confirm, and we can see that it's in the starting mode right now. If I close this, also I can tell by looking at the object that it is in starting mode. And basically right now we're just waiting for this feedback. But I'm just going to wait here because I want to show you. There we go. So we already have the filter start alarm because it did not start in 5 seconds. So now if I go ahead and just fake a signal in here for running status, I can see that now it's running and the filter start went away. And also I can tell here by looking at the object that's running this pump, for example. And in the same way, stop, that's why I get a confirmation. And it's stopping, it's basically just waiting to see this is going away. If it doesn't, then I get a filter stop 1. So I'll go ahead again and fake this to false. That's went away and it stopped. And again it went to gray, and so it's giving me here that it is stopped. So that's basically for setting up your piece of equipment and starting stopping from the HMI. And all these parameters and more are all, of course, in the PLC as well. If you configure from the PLC, you can do so. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can set up everything in here, and you will be up and running. And that's what we're going to see in a little bit to add a second. As we are familiar with the operating, basically the faceplate from the HMI, we are going to see what does it take to add a second pump. So for example, I want to add we're going to add a pump in this line here, for example. So first, I will go in the PLC and add all the required logic. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is add the logic that will be associated with this second pump I want to add, and I'm just going to call it P3000, for example. And for my example, I know that this pump is going to have some shutdowns and some permissives, and also I want to do the runtime as well. So the first thing I want to do is go to the shutdowns here section, and then I'm going to create the shutdowns for the P3000 pump. So now that I have it added as this first one, make sure that when you add this variable and you make it global, to go to your global variables and make sure you check this box to make it retainable. That way when you put your parameters, you have R cycle, data out program, all your settings will be still there. So that's very, very important to make sure this is checked. In the same way, I'm going to add also permissive. And also a runtime as well. So now that we added the shutdown, the permissive, and runtime, we're going to add our logic for the pump 3000 the process mode in the same way. So now that we have our process modeler is all linked and added, that's pretty much all we have to do at this point in the PLC in terms of the logic that is required. And now we're going to go to the HMI and add our graphic. So now that we are in the HMI, the first thing we want to do is we want to map our variables that we created in the PLC. By simply going in here, I can see here's my variables. So I'm going to select them all, right click and say create device. And to keep the consistent with the data tag naming, I'm just going to delete this PLC, which is created by default. And then I will go to the main menu and simply copy this. It's in here. And we can see here in our properties, this is for 2000 and now we want for 3000. So I'll just put 3000, I can see my variable and now it's here. So I'll add these. And then also we want to create a faceplate that is dedicated to this pump. And we can do so by simply copy and paste this template. So we create a copy and I'm going to rename it. I'm just going to call it D3000 faceplate. I'm going to need that name, so I'm just going to copy it here and then just simply paste it in this run. So that's all we need to do for the object. And now for this faceplate, we need to do basically the same. So now that our parameters are all linked, so this is good to go, and that's all we have to do. So we're going to download our program now to the PLC and HMI, and then interact with our block from the HMI. So now that our program is loaded in the PLC and the HMI, as you can see, here is our new pump that's been added. We're going to go ahead and set it up before we can start operating this pump. So now that our settings is all good to go, I just want to mention quickly a couple of things. So unlike in the first example, we used the cross line, and here we use the VFD. And notice when I did that, we have now some more data to put in. And basically what this does, it will scale basically your speed and your speed feedback. So for me, I just put 3600 RPM. For example, we have a motor that is 3600 RPM. But if you have real feedback, you have the ability to basically scale that to any particular signal that will suit your application. And the same also goes for the speed. Also notice that I basically set here no confirm. So what that will do is every time I start or stop, I will not get that confirmation window like I did in the first example. And I also tell that I have all these blocks or objects, and that's what I set up in there. And when I did that, of course, we have these available. However, notice here I don't have any messages and all this stuff is great, so which I can't bypass it. So I'm going to show you here in a little bit how to add basically shutdown and have that appear in here. But at this point in here, before adding that, I mean I can go ahead and start and stop my pump if I want to, and give it, for example, a set point, which now like we have because we're controlling using a VFD. So I can go and, for example, let's say I'm going to run half the speed, so 1800 RPM, for instance, and start. It's going to be in a starting mode as it's waiting for this feedback. And if I fake this signal, I can see now it is running, and it's running at 1800 RPM. And also, just by looking at the object, I can see here that the speed is 1800 RPM. Unlike this one that it just goes line, it doesn't show the speed. So you can tell just by looking at the object whether it's cross-line controlled or controlled by a VFD. So I can go ahead again and stop it. Again, it's going to be in stopping mode until I go here and say this is false, and it's going to stop, and the speed shows it's 0 RPM. So let's go and add a shutdown in here and see how that affects the system as well as the permissive. So to do so, I'm going to go to my shutdowns here, and I'm going to start editing, and then add a run. So now that's my basically shutdown has been added in here. The next thing I want to do is configure my process interlock, because I want the OK state to be 1 instead of the default, which is 0. So it's a fail safe. So I'm going to say OK state here is 1. And also I want to be able to bypass it from the HMI, so I'm going to set this to 1. Configure non-bypass mode. And the third thing is the message that will be appearing in the HMI. So I'm just going to call this LSHH 1260, which is the level switch. So that's about it for the interlocks. And in the same way, we're going to set up the message. So now that's our permissive and shutdown has been, logic has been added. And just I want to quickly mention for you guys, for the shutdown lock or the process interlock, it can handle up to 30 shutdowns. So if you have more shutdowns, you can just keep adding them here. For the permissive lock, it can handle up to 16 permissives. So now that we added the shutdown, I can see here I have the message that I added in the PLC. I also can see that I can bypass it, and in the same way is the permissive. So let's say, for example, now we're going to start our pump and then trigger an interlock and see what will happen. So as we see here, as soon as we triggered the alarm, we can see that the motor went to the stopping mode, and it's telling us here it's not ready, and I just have to fake basically the signal. So now it's in the stopped status, and I can see here that my shutdown, it has been triggered, and it's yellow, which means it's first out, and that I can bypass it. Also, if we look from the object, I can see that it's an alarm, and I have here it's zero, so something is going on. So because I can bypass this alarm, so for example, let's say if we're working on this sensor or this level switch and we still need to start the pump, we can do so by simply just check that, and you can see here that we are bypassing our shutdown, and I can again start my pump. So I can go ahead to start. It's going to go to starting mode, and then if I fake the running signal, now I'm running and the pump is running. However, it's giving me here there is something going on with the pump, which is basically that's what bypassing this. So that's basically how the shutdowns works. So now let's see how the permissives works. So as we see here, we have a permissive that we added to our logic earlier, and also I can bypass it. So now the pump is running. If I lose this permissive, that will be fine because it's just a permissive. It's not going to stop my pump, as we're going to see here. So I'm just going to fake a signal here to trigger the permissive. Set to false. So as you see here, immediately I have that permissive not met. Same way like the shutdowns. However, notice here my pump is still running, and I can also confirm that by that my output here coming from the block, it's still true, and here's my speed coming out. So that's all fine. However, if I stop now the pump, so it's going to go to stopping. I'm going to take the running signal. So now it says it's stopped, but notice here now it tells me that it's not ready because I have this permissive that it's not satisfied. So I need to satisfy this before I can start the pump again. So we can do so by again the same way. I can bypass it as I'm allowed to bypass it, and I can start my pump again. And I'm going to fake again the signal, and I'm up and running. So with interlock and permissive bypassed. In fact, now that I start my pump, I can actually take this bypass off, and the pump could care less. So if I take it out from here, the pump keep running, then that's fine. So because it's just a permissive. We also notice here we have the running as well time for this equipment. We can obviously have started 37 times and we don't have it running for at least now. But if we look at the PLC side, we can see that it has been going for like 0.04 hour. And for the last run, it has been running for 0.15 hours. So that's basically what it takes to basically add pump, the logic, and also the graphic in the HMI. As you guys see, it takes very little time to add a pump and have it up and running with the shutdowns and permissions associated because of this already pre-built logs and library that we used here. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.
If you made it this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification and give us the thumbs up. And again, thank you for watching.